The Moorhead Public Service Commission welcomes and encourages customer input on issues listed on the agenda or of general water and electric utility interest. Time and commission permitting, speakers are limited to 3-minute presentations. Customers wishing to address the commission regarding a specific agenda item will be afforded an opportunity during the discussion of that item. Customers wishing to speak on matters not listed on the agenda will be given the opportunity to do so under the heading Customers to be Heard or Recognitions. Each person requesting the opportunity to speak is asked to fill out a request to speak form located on the table in the back of the room and present it to the administrative assistant in attendance at the meeting. Any follow-up or feedback will be done via email on anything that cannot be resolved this evening. So I would ask for call to order, motion to begin the meeting.
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Ness, seconded by Borgen. Borgen?
Yes.
Oh, we have to read another thing? Oh, sorry. We have remote members. So Commissioner Heidi Durant will be participating this evening via interactive technology from the address of 3625 22nd Avenue South, Moorhead, which location is open and accessible to the public during the meeting. And Commissioner Matt Lyseth will be participating in this meeting via interactive technology from the address of 428 5th Avenue Northwest in Aberdeen, South Dakota, which is this location is open and accessible to the public. So to the commissioners attending via interactive technology, please make sure that your camera and microphone are turned on so we can see and hear you during the meeting. So I would now call for a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Borgen, seconded by Ness. Borgen?
Yes.
Durant? Durant?
Yes. Yes.
Lyseth?
Yes.
Ness?
Yes.
Baker, yes. Agenda's approved. Now I'd ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Durant, seconded by Ness. All in favor, Borgen?
Yes.
Durant?
Yes.
Lyseth?
Yes.
Ness?
Yes.
Baker, yes. Customers to be heard or any recognitions?
I don't see any customers this evening, Vice Chair Baker. I do have a couple recognitions, though.
Okay.
April 1st, it's not an April's Fools, but Moorhead Public Service received the designation for RP3, which stands for Reliable Public Power Provider from American Public Power Association. We are a platinum level, so that's the mid-level. I think the diamond level is the top level. We got that designation for the next 3 years, so we go through a process when we apply for that designation, and that takes several months to do that, and there's a lot of criteria that we got to follow, and they're always trying to advance and push the envelope on that. So kudos to the team for all we do to make us a reliable public power provider. So. Secondly, one of our employees, Katie Kemper, she just started as our HR generalist. She's been a longtime employee of MPS. She's going back to school to get her business management and HR degree. And she notified me that she received an Outstanding Management Student of the Year through the University of Minnesota Crookston. And so she was not expecting that, but appreciated it, and she shared that with me, so I felt it would be good to share that with the commission as well, too. Those are my recognitions for the evening.
Very nice. And no customers to be heard, so we will move to old business. Any old business from the group? None? Okay. Then on to reports. Commissioner Borgen, we'll start with City Council report.
Thank you. Thank you. So as you probably know, every month the City Council and the City Management Team holds a workshop that we can take care of some business prior to our monthly meetings. And this month, Travis came and gave us a report on the new meters that are going out, the electric and water meters, and the progress and how they're going to implement it. And I just want to give him a shout out to say that I think it was really well received by everyone on the council and all the other management folks in the workshop. And I thought it was really a good collaborative move on your part. So thank you for doing that.
Problem, thank you. And again, team gave that information to the commission last month, and it was perfect timing to get that in front of the council as well, too. So they're aware of all the concerns or things on how we're going to handle that process as we put out roughly about 35,000 electric and water meters. So thank you.
That ends my report.
Motion to accept city council report? Or do I need to do that? Okay. Never mind. Public Service Commission report? Anyone have anything to report? Okay, then we'll move to the general manager's report. Mr. Schmidt.
Yeah, we got several items on here tonight. First one is our NERC update. I'll have Taylor Holt come up and speak to that briefly. On an annual basis, we have to go through a compliance audit with National Electric Reliability Corporation, which is under the guise of the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. I'll let Taylor kind of speak to the process and what we go through and answer some questions after that. Go ahead, Taylor.
Good evening, Commission. Taylor Holt, project manager, project engineer. Yeah, the NERC update we do on an annual basis. The requirement is a maximum of 15 months to go through all of the NERC standards that apply to Moorhead Public Service as a distribution provider and a transmission owner. We just go through it step by step, each standard, to make sure that we are compliant with all of the standards set by NERC, and to make sure that we make sure to update any of the standards that have been implemented or revised throughout the year. There weren't any late last year of those standards that were revised, but we did have two revised on April 1st this year. We'll have two more in July. I think we'll have another one towards the end of the year. The biggest updates to last year's NERC standards really weren't from NERC themselves, but they had a lot more to do with the completion of the expansion projects down at the DOE substation. Prior to that, we had minimal bulk electric system, electric facilities down there, but with the expansion, that inventory is drastically increased. Along with that, are there any questions on NERC standards or review process? Pretty dry and boring. Thank you.
Thank you, Taylor.
Yeah, it's another item of topic. We had our power factor assessment. So Missouri River Energy Services on an annual basis reviews our power factor, and we have criteria that we got to be in compliance with them as well too, and has a maximum of 10 summer hours where we can be below a power factor of 0.95. Another boring thing to talk about here, but again, last year we did not have any issues with that. Taylor, you want to go add anything to that?
Yes, yeah, our power is kind of measured on half-hour windows throughout the month. That with those 10 hours given to us kind of as a conservative and forgiving standard from Missouri River, essentially that ends up being 20 total windows where we can veer lower than that 95% power factor. We've had a good stretch over the last several years with our customer load. We haven't had to use any of those. Part of that is due to the capacitor bank projects that we've kind of pushed onto some of our major customers that have bad power factor. Those oftentimes are industrial customers with large motor loads that are really targeted for that. That's about all I have to add, though.
Yeah, and we'll be able to do more with the new AMI project as well too. We'll be able to get some power factors off of the main meters. At this point, we have to really look at the substation level for that. So this will be, again, AMI has another value to the project as well too. So overall, I think we're in a good spot. We did, we had some concerns because we did remove a couple of capacitor banks at two of our substations about 8-10 years ago. And we've done some adjustments with that and putting more of that capacitance at the loads themselves. So it's helped immensely, but we'll continue to look at that and move forward from there. Other than that, we've got the 2025 AWWA Drinking Water Week. Mark, do you want to speak to that?
Thank you, Travis. Mark Pritchard, Water Plant Manager. As Travis had mentioned, this upcoming May 4th through the 10th is the 2025 American Water Works Association's Drinking Water Week. It's a national recognition of the vital role that water plays in our daily lives. And it's a great way to facilitate some education with the public about, first off, where does your water come from, and then what work goes into making it a consumable product that is safe from a public health perspective. So far too often, it's really the only type of news that utilities like drinking water plants get is in the negative light. It's boil orders, water main breaks, certain things like that. This is to try to add some of that positivity to the side of things. And again, help the education side of things so that people know where their water comes from and all the work that a lot of professionals do to keep the town running. So we're going to have, as in previous years, some social media posts that we have pre-prepared. So we'll have a lot of activity on the social media side of things to help push that message this year.
Any questions for Mark?
Okay. I've got two more items here. We've got our legislative updates. Those are included in the packet as well too. But then I'm gonna have Mark Moorhead come up. We've got some just speaking about our LIHEAP program, low income heating energy assistance plan, if I stated that right. And I'll let Mark kind of speak to it. But overall, typically we have funds that go through June, July, and those are probably running out this week. So I'll let Mark speak to the rest.
Thank you, Travis. Good afternoon, Commissioners, Vice Commissioner Baker. As Travis indicated, I'm providing an update on the state of Minnesota's LIHEAP Energy Assistance Program. The state of Minnesota administers the program using grant money received from the federal government through the Department of Health and Human Services. Traditionally, they receive about 90% of their funding in October of the program year. The program year usually goes from October through September of the following year. The remaining 10% is usually allocated sometime in April to get through the rest of the season. With the recent activity that has been occurring at the federal government, and particularly the Department of Health and Human Services, all staff was laid off on April 2nd, therefore there's really no one to run the program. So at this time, the state of Minnesota anticipates that their available funds to fund the LIHEAP program will run out sometime this week. The original estimate was sometime around April 24th, but they're expecting it to run out this week. They did want to reiterate that they are still taking applications. Any application that is received prior to what they call the run out of money date will be processed and be eligible for funds. If an application is received after that date, they will process it, determine whether it is eligible, and then hold it for future processing if the remaining 10% is eventually allocated out to the states. At this time, the state of Minnesota is expecting to hopefully receive the additional $12 million to fund the program. And in the past, that funding, as Travis indicated, has run usually through July or August. And this year we'll be running out in mid-April, so that could cause some issues with our delinquent accounts and the availability for them to receive assistance money to help them through the summer months and the cooling needs. For reference, Moorhead Public Service last year received funds from the state for about 1,400 residents. This year, actually, a little bit over 1,500 have been approved and are receiving funding. So this is out of about 18,000 households, 1,500, roughly 1,500 are eligible to receive energy assistance funds. So to recap again, they expect to run out of energy assistance funds sometime this week, and they're hoping that the remaining 10% can be allocated sometime in the near future, but at this time, it's an uncertainty. So at this point, I'll just answer any questions that anybody may have.
Mark, is that, you said 1,500 eligible? Is that how many applications are actually there, or is that just
They've
eligible
received
and then-
more applications. They have actually approved over 1,500 who meet income guidelines for household size.
Far more applications than what's eligible?
Correct, correct.
Yeah, I think, Clay County itself has about 2,000 households that they usually do assistance with. Moorhead has about 1,500. So we have about 75% of the customer base in Clay County that gets assistance through MPS or through West Central Minnesota Community Action. So we did get a phone call from West Central last week, and then Minnesota Municipal Utilities Association also sent out a notice to send letters to the federal legislative representatives that I took care of last week as well too, asking for those funds to be released for support as well too.
So have those positions that you say were sent home, that no longer exists? Was it
At this time, yes, I did receive an update from our contact at West Central Communities Action. She said that most of the activities that that department used to handle were transferred to something called the Office of Community Services. At this point, they're not certain if the Office of Community Services will be dispersing any of the available funds that do remain, or if they're just going to remain in limbo. And in addition, that does put next year's program kind of as in limbo as well. So again, it's a very, as you can see, popular program to residents, low-income residents within the city of Moorhead and Clay County and throughout the state. So for it to disappear would be very critical.
Commissioner Borgen?
I don't know. Oh, that is working. Okay, so I understand that we have contacted our state legislators, but it seems to me that this is federal money, right? Was it a federal money program?
It's a federal grant program overseen by, it was previously by the Department of Health and Home.
So
CHHS.
are we going to be contacting our senators and our representatives? It seems to me that on a federal level, they should get involved and help put some pressure on the feds to stop making these cuts, that they don't see the unintended consequences. 7,500 people who get assistance for heating and cooling aren't going to get that anymore. I mean, I just don't think that that was foreseen when you fire a bunch of people and think that, life can continue as is.
Yes, I think it was Fishbach is who the letter went to. The information I got from West Central is that Smith and Klobuchar were already on board and 100% aware of what those needs were. So they said, we need to reach out to Fishbach's office. So, and that's what we did.
Thank you.
Yes.
Mark, what do we do in the meantime? Because it sounds like this money's allocated, it's just no one to process. So make the assumption later this year we find it, we're going to continue to service these customers and just have a credit to them until the money comes through? Is that the guideline from
That's
MPS?
a good question. That maybe is something I'd ask you for guidance on, because traditionally what we do is in July, August, when the funds run out, the new calendar, or their new program year will start in October. So we have allowed customers who were approved the prior year to kind of have a little leeway until the new year's funding becomes available and they may be covered. 2 months is different than now we're looking at potentially 5. So we're not sure, what we're going to do. Again, we'll be directing to the other agencies that we refer to, but the funding that's available out at those agencies is far less than what's available through the state LIHEAP program. So that is a good question. We're just going to monitor it right now and see what happens over the next 30 days. If it appears as though those funds will be released, it will be definitely welcome, but at that point, then we'll have to make a decision on how we're going to handle delinquent accounts and past due accounts.
Are those funds, do they cover, so of my entire Moorhead Public Service bill, do they cover just water, electricity? What exactly are the specifics to which that program covers?
Well, that's a great question, and that's, again, a common misconception we have with the residents who do receive those funds. Because we do billing for the city of Moorhead, which includes water, wastewater, sanitation, pest control, forestry, those types of funds are not covered by the LIHEAP program. They only will cover electricity at this time. During the COVID years, they did have some special programs that they offered that did cover water and wastewater related charges. Those funds ran out about a year and a half ago, and now it's back to traditionally electric, or electric for MPS. It would also include gas through Excel if they have gas heat. So on a typical Moorhead residence bill, the only thing the LIHEAP funds can be applied towards are the electric charges and the Minnesota state sales tax associated with the electric charges. Everything else is the homeowner's responsibility or the resident's responsibility.
Question.
So is there an association or even the Association of Minnesota Cities or counties? Is there any communication between all of the other electric suppliers on what they're going to do? Because we're not the only ones in this boat. Everyone's in this boat. So are you communicating with others to try to figure out what they're doing? Because if we're going to be asked to make a decision, it would be kind of nice to know a little benchmark of where others are.
Yeah, we've got a typical Friday phone call for government relations with MMUA. We'll see what comes out of that, since they've kind of been blasting this week to get those letters out to the federal representatives. I have not heard anything from the League of Minnesota Cities or counties regarding this. Again, some cities and counties, they really don't get involved with that. I'm not sure what the cooperative group is doing at this point in time, so hopefully we'll hear more on Friday of what's going on and, where things are kind of coming to. So other than that, it's pretty infancy here. We're trying to figure out what to do with it, so we'll probably be talking about this again at the next commission meeting as well too, maybe sooner if we need to.
Thank you.
Is it a possibility that the Office of Community Services just would continue business as normal, like it's been transferred to them? As important this is, obviously nobody wants to see anything just come in and cut and slashed and just tossed to the side. Is there a possibility that the newly assigned group that is handling it would just take things and run with it as it was?
I believe that there's action and anticipation and hope that it will occur. Again, my contact at West Central Minnesota Communities Action was in a conference call on Thursday with representatives from the Minnesota Department of Commerce. In her email back to me on Thursday with some information, and she seemed kind of guarded but optimistic that something will occur. It sounds as though there have been at least positive communications between representatives from the Department of Commerce and representatives from this office that has now taken over. So optimistic, but yet it's guarded. If that's a polite way to put it, it's guardedly optimistic.
Anything else? Thank you, Mark.
Yes, thank you.
Includes my report.
We need a motion to accept the general manager's report.
So moved.
Second?
Motion by Ness, seconded by Borgen. Let's vote. Borgen,
Yes.
Duran,
Yes.
Lyseth,
Yes.
Ness,
Yes.
Baker, yes. Accepted the general manager's report. So the next order of business is to accept a report by DGR Engineering. So Mr. Schmidt, tell us more about the report.
Yeah, I'll start this and I'll let Taylor add into it as well. So we started this probably about a little over 2 years ago. We had a meeting with City Manager Molly and Economic Development, Derek LaPointe from EDA, and just talking about the growth in Moorhead and concerns with that. So we went into about a 1-year study with MRES as our transmission planner. From that, we then engaged DGR Engineering about a year ago, 14, 15 months ago, and to evaluate what was there and basically put some pencil to paper and come up with some options for us to increase our capacity within our transmission system. And with that, we've got a report in front of you. We've had it for a couple months. We've been evaluating it in draft form, making sure we're comfortable with how they've proposed everything. And I'll let Taylor speak to the rest. Go ahead, Taylor.
Taylor Holt, project engineer. MPS is reaching a point where its existing electric system is limited in capacity under strained circumstances. I want to be clear, this does not mean that we are immediately at risk of brownout or blackout. What it really means is we are at risk under certain scenarios, which may include construction, maintenance, natural disasters, power supply issues, etc. The philosophy behind the design of MPS's transmission system is to prepare for what we call N-2 scenarios. The N's can simply be referred to as normal conditions. This means that we are planning for the possibility of two critical components failing simultaneously while still avoiding customer outages and/or overloading the transmission line or substations. Planning for these scenarios allows MPS to de-energize substations for maintenance and upgrades without any stress on the rest of the electric system. DGR has prepared a memo summarizing the findings of their study that proposes several capacity improvement projects that have been divided into 2 stages. The projects consist of transmission, substation, and distribution upgrade projects. The projects were evaluated and ordered based upon value and effectiveness, according to DGR. It was also noted that some projects from both stages 1 and 2 could be coordinated together, which could result in some cost savings. MPS plans to utilize the information from this study to help make the best decisions regarding project planning, as some of the projects will be dependent on future load growth in Moorhead. Examples of load growth could be city expansion to the south or to the east, or industrial growth in the Makara Industrial Park. The estimated cost for these projects is approximately $21 million. The 2025 budget that the Commission approved back in December includes funding for these proposed projects over the next several years. Upon acceptance of this report, MPS will direct DGR to move forward with preliminary design, documentation, and more detailed cost estimates for the selected projects. The result of these projects would allow MPS to serve an additional 35 megawatts of load under strained circumstances. This is a capacity increase of about 42.5% from our all-time peak load. That information, do the commissioners have any questions? Such as what some of the projects might be?
Yes, what are some of the projects?
The list in the report includes some distribution projects that weren't specifically designed at this point because the design of the distribution is pretty fluid based on where developers want to grow and get permission from the city from, but also the way that they design the roads and streets throughout. But the top kind of bang for your buck project that's being proposed right now is upgrading what we named KV1A at the Moorhead DOE substation. Last year we installed a new KV2A transformer, which was a replacement of a transformer that was damaged back in June of 2021. That new transformer is about 2.5 times bigger than KV1A at this point. So KV1A is rated at about 75 MVA, and the whole city peak load is about 83 MVA, meaning that if it was a really hot summer day and we had to serve the city under that N-2 scenario, KV1A would not be able to handle it. We can't overload it for a short period of time. It's just not good for the life of the transformer. A couple of projects that we plan on bringing a task order to the commission on here over the next few months are to add a couple of capacitor banks at another substation. The scenario in which those would become useful is we get power from Western Area Power Administration. They feed half of us through a substation in Fargo, and the next nearest facility is about 94 miles southeast of here at their Morris substation. Due to some properties over that long distance, we can have some voltage issues in town, which has various negative consequences if we don't add those capacitor banks. Another major project would be adding an additional transformer down at the Opportunity substation, which is located near the Macara Industrial Park. So if we get a few large customers down there, that's already been designed. It's just a matter of procuring the equipment and installing it. That covers a few of them. Could go
I have a
on.
question. I have another question. I don't know if it's for you, Taylor, or if it's for Travis, but I think it's great that you're thinking ahead and having this report done and having a long-term plan. What if, for example, we get a big company that wants to come in or someone who wants to build a casino? It kind of shoots this whole thing out of the water. So where are we at with that, and how can you shift gears, and what do you do to get a new idea of what energy would be needed?
I'll start, and Taylor, you
Sure.
can add in. So this is just for normal growth within Moorhead. This is to make sure we can handle just regular, normal growth. When it comes to a large load customer, or even potentially a casino, the casino itself probably isn't a major load increase. We've got some preliminary ideas of what the expected load would be, but we're not completely sure. Again, meeting today that occurred at the Clay County Board of Commissioners didn't really go into that detail. We're very early in that process as well too. So this, if we were to get a large load customer or something occurs out for the casino, then we would, that would be a completely different process and project. We've already identified that, there's a potential for a substation on the east end out by 336, along with, it's a completely different program if you're talking hundreds of megawatts of load from a different large load customer. So that would, we would definitely have to shift, I wouldn't say we'd shift gears, but it'd be an added load to getting those projects done.
Thank you.
But again, all of this, again, with the electrical equipment, a lot of this stuff is large lead times or long lead times. And so you just can't order a transformer or breakers or capacitors and have them show up in a year. It's 2 to 3, potentially even longer years before some of those stuff is ordered and delivered. So it's, again, got to plan as much as we can. Again, even within the report, there's things in there that we might have to shift on the fly on as well too. But again, we've at least got a process and a plan that we can try to adhere to as close to possible. But like Taylor said, with the distribution, some of those are fluid. We had a report probably about 4 or 5 years ago that we completed with a master plan, and it's all dependent on load and where stuff is growing. So we got to adjust on those as well too. But one thing to note, Taylor talked about capacitor banks and control building. That's actually on the agenda. It was approved on the consent agenda as well too. So because we do have to start that design process. Taylor, anything to add?
Yeah, that your question is touched on here because the scope and the start of the study occurred not too long before we started hearing about these large load growth opportunities. They were discussed, but they kind of kept it out of here due to the scope that was already in place and the understanding that a study of, like Travis said, hundreds of megawatts was going to take a lot more resources to do.
Yeah, we discussed that with, if we were to get that large load customer, we're already got a prepared agreement with Missouri River Energy Services to do that planning part of that. But again, until we have more information, we're not going to pull that trigger.
Thank you.
Taylor, I have a question. It sounds like this is for residential and typical industrial growth. How old is some of the equipment that you referenced right now? I mean, this is all budgetary replacement that we've planned on? Like, how old is that stuff, or what's the life cycle? Give me a better technical
I believe
version.
that we're looking at like 1970s transformers. The KV1A that I referred to earlier, that is actually older than the one that was replaced, but due to the unfortunate damage circumstances, we had to replace that one first. So our actual life cycle included upsizing KV1A first. The capacitor banks would be a new build that isn't already there. Another project that I didn't bring up earlier was upgrading our transmission line, which technically it's been around since we upsized it from 69 kilovolts to 115 kV. I'm not sure when that occurred. I think it was the 90s.
Yeah, it depends on the areas of
Recall.
town. Some areas of town, the infrastructure is the 90s. Some of it's back in the 70s and 80s as well too. Typical life expectancy on the substation transformers anticipate 50 years. Some of them can go to 60. It just really depends on the growth that's coming into town as well too.
Yep, and the life of the transformer is dependent on how high you load it. We load transformers at your houses differently than we do at the substations. The substations generally have their longest life expectancy running about 50% load. Your home transformers or distribution transformers are treated differently because we're trying to get a return on the investment, and they're a lot more economical to replace.
How does Moorhead compare into such as like an industry standard or a benchmark for how much available we have or what kind of N-2 scenarios we can take? How would we compare, you know,
As
with,
far as like total capacity,
I guess at our community versus other communities, how are we rated in that? I mean, like we discussed earlier, we had a platinum level designation for, you know, an agency that came in and reviewed. I'm just wondering, when they look at the load, this N-2 situation, if it was to occur, what would they say our strength is in adapting to it, basically? And how are we compared to other communities similar, I guess, across the country?
I don't know if there's really like a benchmark to refer to exactly, because like the N-2 scenario we're looking at is more of like a pass-fail versus a how successful were you. So I mean, it's pretty binary at that point. Either you kept all your customers on, or you dropped them off. But as far as where we're located in this region, I'd like to believe that all customers have backup feeds and are prepared for that N-2 scenario. I have been to conferences with customers out at the edges of the grid in Alaska that not only have much higher rates than us, but they only have one feed into town. And that if any one of those poles fails on that entire transmission line stretch, that entire town's out until it gets fixed. And as rough as our seasons are in the winter, it's got to be worse up there. I apologize, I'm probably not answering the question in the manner that you're looking for. But
No, I think you're getting there, basically. I'm just asking if we, you know, based on industry standards and comparisons, are we on a right path to having the right systems in place? And I would like to consider us to be upper echelon, so that's what my aim is for
How
our
about I answer
services.
it this way? So for a period of time, our entire transmission line was under NERC regulations, and NERC is, their whole goal is to make sure that the entire electric grid doesn't have issues. So they set all these rules and regulations and guidance that need to be followed for it. I think it was in 2017, we were given a NERC exemption from having to follow those rules because our transmission line only feeds the city of Moorhead, and if anything were to occur on our transmission line, it wouldn't impact anybody else. But we have continued to build out our transmission line and substations to follow all of those NERC standards. We just don't always note all of that documentation because it's not required, and we don't want it to unintentionally be used against us in some sort of audit or review. Is that a little better?
Yeah, thank you.
There's a little bit to add to that. It's hard to, you really got to look at it from apples to apples, and there's a lot of oranges, I would call, out there still. Even in the state of Minnesota, you've got a radial feed feeding towns, where we have a loop feed as well too. So I would agree, we're in the upper echelon. Again, we're just preparing for the future with this as well too. So I don't really think that there's actually some, like the indice you're looking for that. But again, if you look at our outage indices and stuff like that, you can see that we put a lot of investments into the infrastructure that we have.
I just have one more question. So the stage one of this, the 12 million, will that be done this year, or is that over more than just this year?
That's well over more this year, because some of those stages, like Travis commented on earlier, have equipment that have 2-3 year lead times. So we were working through the preliminary designs of those and attempting to get that equipment ordered as quickly as possible so that we can try and get the proper sequence of the construction seasons we have available starting in 27, 28, and 29.
Okay.
And we should know a lot more information about growth at that point in time.
And is it fair to say that stage one will be completed before you do stage two, or are they kind of simultaneous?
A couple of them could be simultaneous. There's a capacitor bank as number 2 in stage 1, and then there's an additional capacitor bank noted as number 1 in stage 2. We're already doing a control building project at that substation, so we're trying to tie both of the capacitor banks together. 1, so we can minimize outage times, 2, to hopefully get a little better pricing by ordering 2 banks, and then 3, avoiding additional mobilization of the construction contractor and trying to get them to fit it in that window. We think we can save a considerable amount of time that way as well.
Thank you.
And money as well. And one more comment on the reliability aspect. We plan on taking annual reliability report to the commission once it gets received from APPA. We're hoping at the meeting around the 20th of May. And hopefully at that point you'll see how reliable we are compared to other utilities, both our size in the region and nationally. And I think you'll be happy.
That's probably exactly what I was looking for. I
Yeah.
just didn't ask it the right way. Thank
Yeah.
you.
We had a really good year last year. Hopefully that doesn't change.
Now you just jinxed us.
Yep.
Good. So Taylor, we're going to accept this or vote on this, and then you guys move to design and probably come back to us with more specific budgetary items and project-related things later this year.
Those items were included in the original scope of work. We just want to make sure that it's accepted from the commission before we start spending time on something, just in case you guys decide to change direction.
Appreciate it. Nice work.
So are we looking for a motion to accept this report?
Yep.
I'll
ask for a
make that motion.
Second.
I will second.
Motion by Borgen, second by Ness, to accept the DGR engineering report. A vote, Borgen,
Yes.
Durant,
Yes.
Lyseth,
Yes.
Ness,
Yes.
Baker, yes. Report's been accepted. Okay, next order of business, approve request to the mayor and Moorhead City Council to approve resolution of application for the MPS 2025 lead service line replacement project.
Yep,
Mr. Schmidt?
I'll have Jake Long, our water distribution manager, come up. Last year, we did a pilot project regarding lead service line replacement. This is a project where we replace the private side of the service line to the homes. Last year, we did, 6 or 7, I think. We'll finish the rest of those up this spring, and we're going to look to do another 30 of them in 2025. So I'll let Jake take it from there.
Thank you, Travis. Jake Long, Water Distribution Manager. As Travis mentioned, this is just the application for the 2025 lead service line replacement project, looking for approval on that. This is now our second year of the program or through this process. As Travis also mentioned, in 2024, we developed our pilot project that consisted of replacing about 10 to 12 lead service lines that were identified in previous water main replacement projects. And the purpose of our pilot project was just to kind of establish the foundation of kind of how this program and process works. It also helped us to kind of lay out the beginning stages from applying for the projects, developing plans and specifications, the construction phase of it, as well as receiving the funds after construction. So, yeah, currently the project for the pilot project completed about half of those in 2024, and they have mid-June of this year to complete the remaining half. And then kind of to go back a little bit further, since the spring of 2022, MPS has submitted applications to be included on the project priority list for through the Minnesota Public Facilities Authority Drinking Water Revolving Fund. And really just back since 2024 is when funding for lead service line replacements became available through the bipartisan infrastructure law as well as state matching funds. So fast forward, or going back to January of 2025, the commission approved task order number 11 with Apex to complete the engineering and funding administration services associated with 2025's lead service line replacement project. And where we're at right now is MPS and Apex are currently submitting our applications for the Dwarf Drinking Water Revolving Fund application to the PFA and the MPFA, the Minnesota Public Facilities Authority, requires that several items be submitted, including the attached resolution of application and approved by the Moorhead City Council. As we move forward, our next steps would be finalizing our plans and specs and then bringing our plans and specs back to the commission for authorizing ad for bids. And we anticipate that to be in a May commission meeting. So that is kind of where we're at with our 2025 lead service line project. So I'd be happy with any questions at this time.
I'm guessing the majority of the lead lines are just from the curb stop to the house, is that correct?
No, there's both.
Is there, okay.
Yeah, there's both from the main to the curb stop and also curb stop to the home. That's where it gets tricky with our inventory, which we're continuing to inventory services. About 3 years ago, we had a big project where we try to inventory all the lines, but they do require having an inventory on the public side as well as the private side. So we're within our AMI project, we're also having our contractors identify all the lines inside again, because there was, I think, about 30% that we were still looking to get into people's homes to identify that portion. The public side is through old plans and specs, old water main cards, newer replacement projects that we're identifying. So anytime we're digging something up, we're identifying it and noting it into our GIS application. So there's a little bit of both, but for this project, it's completing just the private portions, because we're kind of our strategy right now has been replacing the water main, replacing the public portion up to the curb stop, and really you get a really good idea when you do that for the inventory, knowing exactly what you have in these project areas, and then we're coming back the following year to replace the private portion.
How do people pay for that? So let's say I live in a part of town where I have lead service line from my inside house shut off to the city gate in the street. The replacement from the city shut off to my house, how is that paid for? Is that paid for by the homeowner currently, or is it funded through the grants? Or
yeah, currently, prior to this project, it would be homeowner's responsibility. This project here with our pilot project, it was 100% grant from the PFA. So we did our 10 to 12. I think we ended up doing 12 because we found a couple shared services in an area. So it turned into be about 12 lines last year, or last year's project. This year, we identified our approximately 30 from our last year's water main replacement project. Out of, call it 60 services, there was 30 of them that were lead. We're following back up with those 30 to replace through this project. And that's 100% grant right now, so no cost to the homeowner.
If people know, is that something that we want them to reach out to MPS for? Or do we kind of say, wait till we come around to you, or?
Yeah, kind of our strategy right now is the state doesn't want kind of ones here, ones there, because they want to build a project together to keep it most efficient as we can. So right now, we're basing it off our water main replacement plan when we're in areas of known lead areas. Next year, we're actually, this year, we don't have a water main replacement project that's in a known lead area. So the plan for next year will be to find groups, blocks of homes within a few block radius and put together a project that way on main that's been replaced previously with upgraded water main, but still finding a dense area where there's a lot of lines so that, you know, the contractors aren't mobilizing, you know, south, north, east. They're just in a nice little located area, so.
Thank you.
Anything else for Jake? Jake, how many lead service lines are left in the whole city, based on your estimate and your work on this for a number of years?
Yeah, the number kind of changes as we keep identifying some, but I would say right now we're around that 250, but we still have, say, 35% that have unknown in our higher leaded area, so it's kind of a moving target right now, but right now I believe it's about 250, so.
What year did that stop? For manufacturing of homes, when did that stop being used as a practice?
Yeah, from what we can see is a lot of our lead was 1920s, 1930s. You get into the 40s, we haven't seen as much, but kind of there was the lead ban on other fittings, not until the 80s, but lead lines themselves, we don't see anything much past the 30s, so.
Okay, so we need to vote on the resolution, they're approving the resolution of application. So I would ask for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Durant, seconded by Ness to approve the request. Borgen,
Yes.
Durant,
Yes.
Lyseth,
Yes.
Ness,
Yes.
Baker, yes. It's approved. Hopefully we get it through the council. And then we have to close the meeting for executive session. So I will read this, Attorney Bolger. The meeting will be closed as permitted by Minnesota statutes, section 13D05, subdivision 3C. Closed session to discuss the purchase of water. Attorney Bolger, do we expect any action to be taken on conclusion of the executive session?
No, we don't.
Do not. So no action is expected in open session upon conclusion of the executive closed session. So the Moorhead Public Service will adjourn will adjourn upon conclusion of the closed session. No further action is needed. So for now, I would ask for a motion to adjourn this meeting, and then we'll go into the closed session and talk about what we need to.
So moved.
Who was that? Is that Lyseth?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Motion by Lyseth, seconded by Ness to adjourn the meeting. Commissioner Borgen?
Yes.
Durant?
Yes.
Lyseth?
Yes.
Ness?
Yes.
Baker, yes. Meeting's adjourned. Thank you.